Hello everyone, my name is Brittany Gillen and today I will be presenting my course project on multiple sclerosis. I chose multiple sclerosis because it runs in my family. I have two family members that has the disease, which is my grandmother and her younger sister. So I wanted to learn more about the disease and see if it's hereditary, try to figure out signs and symptoms of it, and seeing if there's any way of possibly preventing or trying to catch on to it early on. So, during my research on the pathological disease, I found out a lot of good information and I would like to share it with you all. So, here we go. What is multiple sclerosis? It is a disease of the central nervous system that progressively worsens over time. What body system is affected? The central nervous system, as mentioned before, is affected by MS, which includes the brain, the spinal cord, and the optic nerves. The effects MS has on the central nervous system. With MS, the body's own immune system attacks the Meyelian sheaths. The Meyelian sheaths is the tissue that surrounds the nervous fibers in the brain, spinal cord, and optic nerves. They are actually the protection of these nerves. Facts about MS. Most people between the ages of 20 and 40 are diagnosed with MS. MS can occur at any age, but the ages of 20 and 40 are the most popular ages that you will see someone is diagnosed with MS. About 400,000 people has MS in the United States alone and 2.5 million worldwide. Every 2 women are diagnosed with MS over men. There is no way, unfortunately, to prevent MS, and there is no cure today at this time. Signs and symptoms of MS. Nerve damage, which consists of weakness in the arms and or legs, numbness, loss of balance, muscle spasms. Vision problems, which includes blurred vision or total blindness. Speech problems, which is slurred speech. And we go on to tremors, lack of coordination, fatigue, dizziness, and difficulties with bowel and bladder functions. There are four different types of multiple sclerosis, which consist of relapse remitting RRMS, primary progressive MS or PPMS, secondary progressive or SPMS or progressive relapsing MS or PRMS. Relapsing remitting MS or RRMS is an inflammatory attack on the Meyelian and nervous fibers that causes damage to the neurologic function. It is the most common form of MS. About 85% of people are diagnosed with MS suffer from RRMS. Symptoms vary from person to person. and symptoms can flare up unexpectedly and then disappear. Primary progression MS or PPMS, steadily damaging of neurologic functioning without any relapse or remission. Progression of MS is continuous. Occur, it occurs equally in both men and women. The onset is about 10 years later than RRMS. Secondary progressive MS. It usually follows relapse remitting MS. Most people with RRMS transition to SPMS. After periods of relapse and remission, MS will start to progress steadily. Many may or may not experience remission with SPMS. Progression relapse MS is the least common form of MS. Experiences steady disease progression, worsens neurological function. Occasional relapses occur during PRMS. Diagnosing multiple sclerosis. Diagnosing multiple sclerosis is very difficult because the symptoms vary from person to person. MS symptoms resembles other diseases, so there have to be other neurological diseases have to be ruled out before MS is confirmed. MS is confirmed with MRI, electrophysiological tests, spinal taps, or lumbar punctures, evoked potential tests, and blood tests. Treatments for MS. The purpose for treating MS is to help suppress and manage the pathological disease. It focuses on speedy recovery, slowing progression of the disease, and managing symptoms. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there is no cure or no way to prevent MS, unfortunately, at this time. So there are treatments out there that will help suppress and manage the pathological disease. Treatments consist of corticosteroids, which reduces attacks of the nerves or the millennium shields, And then there's oral medications, which reduces inflammation of the nerves. Oh, I'm sorry. Other treatments may consist of plasma exchange, which with plasma exchange it replaces plasma from a donor or plasma substitute. If you're familiar with hemodialysis, it's similar to the process of hemodialysis. I am a dialysis technician, so I'm familiar with the exchange a little bit, which is basically it's just cleansing of the plasma, and you basically just putting new plasma from a donor or from a plasma substitute to help with sudden flare-ups of MS. And last but not least is physical therapy. Physical therapy helps with strength training, and it also helps encourage people with MS to push forward with the disease and help them live with it, because a lot of people do get very depressed because of course there is no cure for the disease. So sometimes it's like no way to really know what's going on in the future with the disease. The best thing to do is just follow the treatments to help slow down the progression of the disease before it get worse. So with both my family members, they actually, which is my grandmother and her sister, they actually are doing very well with MS, and they don't really have too many issues. I will say that my grandmother did have to get surgery on her spine like 3 different times because her bones did start to slip because of the nerve damage. But fortunately, they have been able to save her spinal cord. Um, Other than that, like my grandmother, I also ensure that she keeps up with her treatments, as well as my aunt. They both doing pretty well. But again, I had really enjoyed doing research on the disease to be able to learn more about it and possibly even help out with both of them. I'm pretty sure they know a lot about it because they've been living with it for some time now. But it just helped to know. So I enjoyed doing this project, and I thank you all for watching my presentation, and I hope that you all learned a lot with me as well. Thank you, and you all have a good evening.